on any days that I was having a tough time, my husband was able to say, hey, did you meditate today?
So he could spot when you were going through a rough patch?
Yep. And was able to say, we know what your medicine for this is now. Have you taken your medicine for this?
Which was the meditation?
Meditation and reading Gurbani.
So meditation became your medicine?
Yeah, it replaced the self-harm, it replaced antidepressants, it replaced anti-anxiety meds, it replaced any suicidal thoughts. Sikhi has been the absolute key to my recovery. Meditation has been the absolute key to my recovery, because it actually got me to sit. Once I started to read, I say this quite often, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji is the manuscript for life, the manuscript for a soul, whether you're a tortured soul or not. And I can tell you, I felt like a tortured soul. And learning and understanding that, wait, this is how my life is meant to feel. This is how it's actually been directed to feel, but I feel something different. I need to connect with this a little bit more and find out what this is.
With the spiritual message of Gurbani?
Yeah, 100%. And it actually started with Mool Mantar.
Okay.
And it actually started with Ik. Understanding that I was, and it was your talk on oneness, that I was a part of God. I wasn't outside of God. I wasn't on the fringes of looking in at people with God.
Or I suppose a victim of God.
Yeah, and someone who's being punished. You're being punished for being depressed. You're being punished by being depressed because you are whatever. I no longer had that. I more had I can get past this.
I'm connected to something bigger.
Connected something bigger.
Okay.
And what's making my initial thought was, what's making my heart beat?
Okay.
What is that that's making my heart beat?
And that's how realizing that actually that oneness that everyone talks about is right here. It's the very energy of my own heartbeat.
Because, and I'll remember it. And when your soul knows something is true, it knows it's true, and you know it's true. So my heart started to beat as I was listening to certain things, Katha, Gurbani, and I started to question, like, why does my heart start to beat harder?
Right.
What is that? What's that feeling? And it just went from there, and you start connecting to something bigger than your depression or bigger than your idea of what you are.
So I suppose in the same way as the relief that you were getting from self-harm, you were now finding that the relief you were getting from understanding and experiencing some sort of spirituality.
100%.
Did meditation play a part in your life as well?
Huge part. I mean, as I came off of the antidepressants, I actually went through a period of nervous breakdown as the pills left my system. And there were up days and down days during that period. And on any days that I was having a tough time, my husband was able to say, hey, did you meditate today?
So he could spot when you were going through a rough patch?
Yeah, and was able to say, we know what your medicine for this is now. Have you taken your medicine for this?
Which was the meditation?
Meditation and reading Gurbani.
So meditation became your medicine?
Yeah, it replaced the self-harm, it replaced antidepressants, it replaced anti-anxiety meds, it replaced any suicidal thoughts. It's like, I know who the person is that I'm talking about, but I don't identify with her at all.
With your old self?
Yeah, because I don't, that part of me. And I'm super grateful for every little bit that landed me at this point, because I just want to learn more about who I am and why I'm here.
How would you advise someone if they came up to you and said, you know what, I'm having suicidal thoughts? What are the sorts of things that maybe people watching this video could say, or how could we try and help someone if we think that they've got suicidal thoughts? What do you say to that person?
I don't.
Could you just recommend a meditation? Like what do you say to that person?
I honestly, first, one of the biggest things, like I said, I started to feel my heart. I started to feel in my heart that there was something else that I was connected to. And so when I start to talk to people, it's never just isolated about suicide or self-harm or depression or anything else. My questions are always based around the same thing. And I ask them firstly what their relationship with God is.
Okay.
And just to get an idea of where they are spiritually. And then, depending on what their answers are, my answer is always going to be the same, which is, if we think we're in control, can you give yourself an extra heartbeat?
Right.
The water that you're drinking, who's taking care of that once it passes your mouth? And just starting to think about things a little bit differently. Just changing the perspective.
Getting people to have a perception away from just the negative thoughts that they're having in their head, and actually making them realize that they're connected to something very deeply.
Yeah, so for me, I guess, that kind of... So where I'd become connected to this darkness and depression inside of me, I was able to get connected to the light inside of me.
Right. Interesting.
So by internalizing again and being able to say, what makes my heart beat? What's making my nails grow, my hair grow?
Would you say that the depression experience, the darkness that you talked about, felt isolated and lonely, whereas when you talk about being connected, that's now connecting to something at least, as opposed to just being lost on your own?
100%. And once you begin to connect to yourself, because yourself is connecting to God, connecting to self is connecting to God.
To that true self within you.
To what that is inside of you, that innately your soul knows is true. Connecting to that means that you're no longer connecting to the depression or the things that you once thought were making you depressed.
So really what you try and offer, or what you would suggest, would be to start to coax a different understanding out of that person, and trying to give them a perspective where not just somebody telling them this is how you should think, but it's about what is going on inside you with these processes, like how are you connected to something, and maybe using that as a way for people to think away from their own personal problems and start to connect with something else.